Hi everybody, my name is Jack, and I've been living in Japan for several years. A few years ago, my friend took me out fishing and I was hooked. This is the story of my fishing adventures, and you are watching
I would like to explain how to do cast fishing here in Japan. And there's no better place to do it than this beautiful long beach. So fishing basically comes down to a couple of things. First, you need a place to fish, like water. And the thing that connects us to that water is the tackle. And the tackle consists of a rod. Today I have two different rods. This is a lure rod. I think I got it from my father-in-law. So that there's the rod, then there's the reel, and the line that's connected to it. And both of my reels are spooled with braided line, which is, they call it PE here in Japan, connected to a fluorocarbon line. We'll get into lines later on. It's quite a deep topic. And then I've got another rod that is a telescoping rod, and this is actually specifically designed for cast fishing. Or the reel is also the same. It's a cast reel, and you can see it's much bigger than the reel that I'm using on the other line. So I want to show you two different types of setup, and that you can catch fish with both types. You don't have to spend all this money, which I mean, this isn't like the top of the line stuff, but it is a little bit more expensive than this tackle here. So the tackle it consists of the rod, the reel, the line, and at the end of the line we have two ways of fishing. One is, first you got the line and then a weight, and after the weight you've got the hooks. Or you've got the line, the hooks, and then the weight. And the weight is used to of course to cast a far distance. We'll be using the first type today, which is the line connected to the weight. This is the weight, and then we'll have the hook out over here. And once I get those two set up, we'll talk a little bit more. But I want to show you the different kinds of rigs that I have today. This is all for Kisu fishing. I'll be using this Okizawa style, which is just leaving the rod out there with the lure rod here, and I'll be using the hikizuri, which is the dragging along the bottom with this one, because I can cast it farther out with the heavier weight and the more sturdy rod. One last thing about the rod before I start. On each rod there are numbers on here, and they indicate the size of the rod, the amount of the weight that it can handle. This prime surf rod has a maximum weight of number 27. I forgot how heavy that is. And then the second number, 405, is how long this is. This is 4 meters. And I have got a number 15 weight, and that's fairly light for this kind of fishing, but I'm not too worried about like the current right now. As you can see, there's absolutely nobody here, so that's not a good sign. But if we catch a little fish, I'll be happy. Other things that you need, except for the tackle, especially for beach fishing, nice pair of boots would be good, just in case you got to get in the water. But if you're into like sandals and stuff, that's all right as well. But sneakers, nah, you get sand in your sneakers and it's just a big hassle. And then a cooler, of course. This cooler, I've attached a little stand here so that I can leave my rod on there like that, and then a box on the outside so that I can keep some of the tackle and stuff. Stuff I need are swivels, a fish grip, an extra line just in case you lose the line, and a bell, a jingle bell, just in case when you're doing okizao, you want, and if you get a bite, you want a signal. Anyways, I attached these two to a very cheap cooler, and it's fun doing DIY stuff, and I'll get into that some other time. I'll show you the two types of weights that I have. I said earlier that this is a number 15 weight. I also have number this is a 23 weight, I think. Yeah, number 23 weight, and it's a little bit bigger and heavier than this one. The difference in color is that this one's new and this one has been through the salt water, so it lost its luster. This one is a number 10, and it's really tiny and quite light, and this was going to be used on this line because I'm not going to be casting too hard with this rod because it's not geared for that. Hey, little spider. Or is that a crab? Spider. Anyways, get it set up, and here we go. Unit knot. Another thing that you need that might be helpful is a line cutter, a knife, a towel. And you got to make sure when you're lining these up that the swivel doesn't go through that first guide loop right there, because then otherwise the whole rig will go back down to the reel and be a huge mess. So attach the swivel to the end of the weight on this side, and then it's like an L shape. The one that goes the same direction as the weight is the one you connect to the rod, and then the one on the L side is connected to the rig. I'm going to be using a 2-hook setup, 2-hook rig on this one. So as you can see, there's, I don't know if you can see, there's 2 hooks attached here, and there's no, so the end of the line is a hook. So that means you got to connect the weight over here. Now usually if you pull on this swivel here that's already made, it's made to kind of just come out directly, but since I've already used this, I'm gonna have to, and I wrapped it again, I'm gonna have to take it out like this, and then it's a bit of a hassle, but I don't care about that, because if this is a hassle for you, then this ain't the right hobby. So I'm going to be using this. So I'm going to cast this out. We'll leave that with a bell on it, and then hopefully it'll ring and we'll catch a fish. And so the weight that I showed you earlier, how this is connected to the rod. The other side, now these swivels have these clips on them, and you can open them and close them. You don't have to tie them again and again and again, so these are very convenient. But the more hardware you have, the more difficult it is to fish, because it tangles, there's more places to tangle up the line. So the simplest way is, if the most ideal way to do it would be to have just a line that's heavy but thin so that the fish can't see, connected to a hook, and then it gets to the bottom. But that's impossible, so we got this hardware, but we got to go as small as possible but strong enough to withstand what we do, like the casting and the movement of the current and the pull of the fish. So that's the setup right there. So that's the first one. This is going to be okizao, so I'm going to set this out, cast it, and then put a bell on it. And here we go. So this is a telescoping rod, and so you got to go from guide to guide to guide as you're pulling it up. This reel doesn't have a drag on it, and we'll talk about drag some other day. But so as I'm pulling up here, you can see here on this specific one there are grooves where the guide can stop. And if you get that guide like this, it doesn't move once in the groove, but you want all the guides to line up in the same direction as that top guide. So we got to make sure that this is facing the same basic direction. And so I like to kind of keep the first guide towards me, facing me, and then get every other guide facing me as well. Now, because this doesn't have a drag, the reel doesn't have a drag, as I'm extending the rod, you can see that the weight goes up with it, right? Because the line has stopped and I haven't opened up the bail. If you have a drag, then that can be alleviated by pulling on it and letting the reel do its job, the drag do its job of releasing some of the line. But since I don't have it, I have to open this bail and then let that weight drop. Pull on it a little bit so you get some slack on that line, and then pull up more on the rod. This is going to extend to about 4 meters. Was it 402? But I did break the end of it before, and I re-guided it, so it's about 4 or just under 4 meters. And again, open up the bail, let some line out, and extend the rod. So as you can see, the line color has changed. This red line is actually the chikaraito, the strong line, and the blue line underneath is the braided PE line. And this isn't very wise to do, but because I haven't set out or cast anything out yet, I'm going to set 2 rods on one stand, which isn't a good idea in general, but when we're setting up, it's all right. So that is hooked up to a swivel here, but in this case you can see that this isn't clipped onto the weight itself. So what that does is it allows the weight to move up and down the line. This weight specifically has a small hole and then a big hole, and the large hole, well, hopefully this will go in and out. This will go in and out from this hole, but it doesn't go past this hole. It's too big to go through this hole. So what this does is it allows this weight to move back and forth on the line. So what that does is that line is connected to the rig, which is connected to the hook, and if a fish bites, I've got a direct feeling or direct connection to the rod and reel, as opposed to this one, which has the connection disconnected by that weight. And depending on if the weight, for example, is stuck in a rock or something, the tension would be loose, and so there will be different actions or reactions by the rig from the fish. Okay, and so I'm gonna go with 3 hooks on here. So this one, as I'm pulling, you can see each hook comes out of the bag automatically, and that's the 3rd one coming out now, and so it's quite convenient. So this morning I bought 3 different types of bait. We had the homushi, the aogokai, and the akagokai. And for today, for this morning, we're going to be only using the 2 of them, the blue and the red. The red looks like this. You can see that the blue is also a bit bigger and longer than the red. And you can see, right, the akagokai is jumping more than the aogokai. So what the And then the homushi that I don't, ow, he just bit me. The homushi that I have in the car, that's just different altogether, and it doesn't move at all. But what that is it has a distinct smell that the fish like, and they get attracted to that. So what I'm gonna do is, for the Okizawa, the one that I'm just gonna leave there with the bell, I'm gonna be using this one, the Aogokai, which is quite bigger, so they attract them by the size. And for the hikizuri, which is the one I cast and drag out, I'm going to be using the red, which is which has more appeal, and they're smaller, so it's better for the it fits the hook as well because it's a smaller hook. And I'll be using the Aogokai on the hook, and this is how you hook them up. And I'm going to be using one worm per 2 hooks. Now there's a mouth that he bites with when he's being attacked, and a lot of people try to get the hook into the mouth, but I don't do that. I just go onto the side of the head and push it up through this hook. Now this hook is made specifically for this worm because the worm wants to crawl off, but they've got little barbs on the side of the hook. I'm gonna break this in half, so that even if the worm tries to come off, it can't. And by the way, I cut off half the worm, but you can see the half without the hook is still, or the head is still quite alive. So to cast, you open up the bail, which is this part right here. If this, on the reel, if this thing goes this way, the line just comes out naturally, just automatically like that. But if you close it, the line gets stuck on this part right here, which has a groove where the line should come in or come out from. If you have this bail over here and you do this and you open up the bail, it gets all tangled up. So make sure that, I'm gonna get some more slack there. Make sure that this line is over here before you open up the bail, and you get your first finger to hold the line so it's still tight up here. Open up the bail. The other hand grabs the back, and it goes from behind to the front like that. And as you cast, and as the weight goes out, you let go of this finger and it casts the weight out. I'll show how it looks. The line's up here next to the rod. Open up the bail. I go behind me, the other hand comes over here. I go behind me, and as I cast, I let go of that finger. And once it hits the water, wait until it gets to the bottom, close up the bail, reel it a little bit. There's two reasons for doing this. One is to make the line taut, and the other one is to feel for the bottom. But here, it's all sand, so I know there's no problem there. So I put this on the stand, put a bell on it, and listen for it while I hook up the other line. Now I'm gonna hook up the bait on this line, on this rod. As you can see, the back of the rod, the length of the back of the rod, the butt of the rod as it's called, is different depending on the type of rod you're using. For casting, this is a longer butt so that you can have a better torque as you cast. But also it helps you when you're baiting the line. So I put the butt under my shoulder like this, and I put my arm right here so that I hold the rod with my forearm and my shoulder, or my armpit. And what I do is I raise it and let physics helped me. So now, because this setup has that weight that can move, I can let the swivels go through that big hole and make the weight go over there farther away from me, so that it doesn't affect my baiting. So here we go. So I like to, when I'm baiting this, I like to have the weight farther away from me than closer, but I don't want it to be too long, so that I can control the tautness of this line. And then I go from the top hook to the bottom hook. That's how I bait them. And for this one, I'm gonna use one full red gokai per hook, because it's my first cast and I don't know if there's any fish out there right now. So I'm gonna get one of these, get a kind of a decent sized one, and I will hook it from one end of the head to the other end of the head, like that. So I've got that hooked up, and I'm gently releasing inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, until I get to the next hook. And then I hold the end of the hook like this, and I get another worm from my bait box. They're all different kinds of bait boxes. I have a 2-compartment bait box. It's plastic, and it has served me well for 7 years, 8 years. But its companion, the other one, died and went to fishing gear heaven. So once that's hooked up, go down to the last hook. Oh, there's a couple of paddlers out there. What's up? Get down to the last hook and hook that bait up. By the way, the bait boxes I was talking about, they also have wooden ones made from specific woods that are good for keeping the moisture in it and keeping the bait alive as long as possible. So this is what it looks like. You got the 3 worms on there, the weight, and then it's connected to the line. And this will allow me to cast a far distance, because the weight is heavier and the rod is stronger. It's the same thing. Get the bail up here, the line up here, and as I look behind me, put the weight down on the ground, open up the bail, and kind of do a perpendicular stance. And as you twist, like just throwing anything, use your waist, your legs, and everything. And as you're letting go of the line, you let go of your finger. It should be a very, very far cast. Here we go. And usually the braided lines, they're set up so that every 10 yards they change colors. So that's a good cast. Now I'm gonna slowly drag it in and see if there's anything on the bottom of the sea like this. Here we go.